Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty dramatic biblical story that gets at a universal question. How do we actually understand anything? See, the text we're breaking down here argues that some ideas just can't be grasped with your intellect alone. They need a special kind of key. So let's get into it.
So, this is the big question this source material throws at us right at the start. I mean, it seems simple, right? But think about it. The way you process a superhero movie is totally different from the way you'd tackle a math equation or a poem.
With a movie, you just kind of go with it, right? You accept that people can fly for the story to work. With poetry, you're looking for symbolism and feeling. You're not fact-checking a poem. And math? Well, that's just black and white, pure logic and rules. Each one uses a different part of your brain.
And that's where we get to the real heart of the argument. If you try to apply the wrong approach, like, say, treating a poem like a math problem, you're going to miss the whole point. And the argument here is that a spiritual text like the Bible is no different. It needs its own special key to unlock it.
And this is the key they're talking about. The source really centers its whole argument on this promise from the Gospel of John. The thinking is, you need this divine guide, the Holy Spirit, to really get what's being said.
Okay, so just so we're all on the same page for this breakdown, when we say the Holy Spirit, we're talking about this idea from the source. It's a divine guide who acts as a teacher, clarifying things and reminding you of what's important. Basically, it's like having an interpreter who bridges the gap between the words on the page and you, the reader.
So to really show us how this works, the source doesn't just stick with theory. It gives us a case study. But first, we need a little bit of context, what it calls God's plan in the scattering.
All right, so here's the backstory super quick. After Jesus ascends to heaven, the Holy Spirit arrives as promised. This gets the early believers all fired up, but, that also brings on some serious heat. Intense persecution starts up in Jerusalem, and it forces them to flee, to scatter all over the region.
But here's the interesting twist. According to our source, this wasn't just some tragedy. It was actually seen as the very thing that made it possible to spread their message. It's like this awful thing, the persecution, is actually the tool that pushes people out of their comfort zone and helps them fulfill their mission to reach the whole world.
Okay, so that's the setup. Now let's see how all this scattering leads us right into our main story. It all kicks off with what seems like a totally random meeting in the middle of nowhere.
So, we're introduced to our main guy, Philip, one of these believers who had to flee. And the source tells us he gets this, it's a really weird instruction from the Holy Spirit. He's told to leave the city where he's actually doing great work and go hang out on a deserted road. Logically, it makes zero sense.
But Philip, he just does it. And sure enough, out there on that empty road, he spots a chariot. And inside is a super important guy, the treasurer for the Queen of Ethiopia. He's on his way home from Jerusalem, and he's reading a scroll from Isaiah. I mean, what are the odds? The exact right person at the exact right time in the last place you'd ever expect.
So Philip jogs up to the chariot and asks this really simple but powerful question. And this is pretty much the core question of this whole explainer, isn't it? It's one thing to be able to read the words on a page, but it's another thing entirely to actually understand what they mean. And wow, the official's response just hits the nail on the head. This is a top official, a smart, educated man, and he straight up says, "How can I? I'm stuck. I need someone to explain this to me." He has the book, he has the brains, but he knows he's missing the guide.
So this is the actual text he's puzzling over. It's pretty confusing, right? It's talking about someone being treated like a sheep at a slaughter, being denied justice, and having his life taken away. The official looks at Philip and asks, is the prophet talking about himself here, or is this about somebody else?
And boom, this is where Philip hands him the key. He tells him, look, this old prophecy, it's not about Isaiah. It's actually a perfect description of what happened to Jesus, his suffering and his crucifixion.
And just like that, a light bulb goes on. Everything clicks. The official doesn't just get it in his head, he believes it in his heart. He's so moved that he asks to be baptized right there on the side of the road. The story ends with him heading home completely changed, just filled with joy.
Okay, so the point of this whole story, according to the source, isn't just to tell us what happened way back when. It's meant to be a kind of roadmap for anyone trying to understand these complex spiritual ideas.
So the source kind of boils this down for us into 4 steps we can actually use. First up, listen attentively. Just like the official, invited Philip in to really hear him out. Next, read and verify. You've got to do the reading yourself. The official was already deep in the scroll when Philip showed up. Third, the source says to rely on prayer,
to ask for help to understand. And last but not least, ask questions. Be humble like the official, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't get this.
So, at the end of the day, the big idea here is that real understanding, in this context anyway, isn't a solo sport. It's a team effort. It requires our own work, the reading, the questioning, but it's made complete by seeking guidance, whether that's from a teacher like Philip or, as the source argues, from the Spirit.
And that leaves us with this one last big question that's way bigger than just this story. Think about it. What does it really mean to understand something, not just with your brain, but to get it so deeply that it actually changes how you feel and what you do? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.